I ask God to give me strength, in those moments when I want to give up. And when I see Samuel, when I see Sarah, my son and daughter, and I see a smile on their face, that creates on me, that strength that I need, to keep on going for them.
This is Dadography, a podcast with stories and insights on fatherhood from dads around the globe, dedicated to providing you with the tools and tips to become a better dad. Welcome once again to the Dadography podcast. I'm your host, Corey Ward, and today we'll be having a conversation with a father from Nicaragua, and his name is Omar Barquero. Omar, welcome to the Dadography podcast.
Corey, thanks so much, for inviting me and allowing me from Nicaragua, to have a conversation with you about fatherhood. It's a great opportunity to be here in your program.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure to have you. I think that fathers tend to have different challenges based on where they are, geographically. They tend to have different challenges based on the cultural nuances of wherever they may be at or from. And so those are some of the things that we really enjoy to talk about during the Dadography podcast in hopes of becoming better fathers. And Omar, if you would, man, tell me a little bit about yourself and tell our audience a little bit about yourself so we can get to know you a little better.
My name is Omar Barquero. I am from Nicaragua. I'm 42 years old and husband of a wonderful wife from Nicaragua too. I have two children, a son, who's 21 years old. And God also blessed me, with a little girl, she's 7 years old. Her name is Sarah Abigail. And I thank God because I am able to not only guide them through parenthood, but I am able to see how God has blessed my life to see them grow and being able to give them the kind of protection, that I didn't have when I was a son with my father.
Right. So your son Samuel is 21 and your
Yes.
7-year-old is Sarah?
Sarah Abigail, yes.
Well, you mentioned something about your father, and I guess I'd like to maybe just stay right there. What was your father like, or what is your father like, and how is your relationship with him?
In Central America, one of the things, the problems we face here, is most of our fathers, the male guy, it's a little bit with that machismo mentality, thinking that a guy can have many children as they can, many wives as they want to, and just step in one home, then go to another one. The problem with that mentality, is that they don't get responsible when they're in their parenthood. And so I was able to see that, in my case, I'm only child. I was born into marriage, but my father, was with that kind of mentality, to have my mother as his wife. But then, he just was living with other ladies, he was never responsible. So I wasn't able to see that parenthood, mother, in my house. When I was 4, he left home. He got divorced of my mom. We were able to keep some conversation, but it wasn't, that kind of fatherhood, that I could say, he was all the time taking care of me when I needed, one advice. He wasn't there. So it was a little bit hard, my childhood, having that model.
Did your father ever express, I don't know, verbally or by any other means that he loved you?
I mean, most of the time when he came, he hugged me and spent time with me, maybe, but that was maybe one or twice a year, So it is hard, in our Nicaraguan society. A lot of kids grow with that problem. It's sad to say it, but probably 60% of the fathers here, they go away from home and establish another family. So most of the kids, when they're growing in Nicaragua, they grow from a single mother, and that's hard.
Yeah, that's very hard. How do you think that relationship impacted your perspective on fatherhood?
And that's a good question, because of what I live, I always grew, with that mentality that when I had the opportunity to be a father, I was not gonna be like him. Parenthood or fatherhood was something, very important. And because not only faithful to your wife, but also, to have that protection, that provision, and that love towards your kids. Something that
Hmm.
impacted my life, and I want to share this to all those guys, that are gonna hear these podcasts. If you ask me how he impacted me, I only remember that he gave me two gifts. For example, one was a fish, he caught. Then he brought it home. When I was eating that fish, one of the bones, just stuck in my throat, and I had
Oh,
to go to ER. Then the other one, he gave me a pair of shoes. They didn't last so long. Those kind of things, mark my life to in a positive way, because I was expecting when I get the opportunity to be a dad, those things are gonna change. I can say my life with my kids is a little bit different now.
so from your experience, you walked away with the memory of choking on a fishbone and shoes that didn't last long. That's really something, man.
Hmm.
Um, Omar, what's your fatherhood style? If you had to put it in, your own words, and why are you taking this approach?
I believe, I am kind of protective. I am the father, who provide for the home. And also, I am very serious on trying to keep my children, how would I say, not away from society, but very protective. And the reason why is because what happened to me. And so I try to keep a lot of privacy, around my kids. I try to keep a lot of protection. And every time, I have the opportunity to be with them, because I work with a Christian ministry. Most of the time I have to go maybe a week or 2 weeks on missions. And when I'm here at home with them, I try to give full time with them. The most important for them is when I'm here is that I am able to spend most of the time with them.
Well, that's good. So it sounds like you take the approach of quality time when it's available to you, which I think is fantastic. We've seen over and over again that that's such an important part of being a dad. Is there anything that you think is similar to your dad and you?
One of the things that I really like about my father, those times when he was with me, and now, that I'm a grown man, I have the opportunity to talk with him, and I am able to see, where his advice is. Most of the things, he shares with me when we shared with me when I was a kid, they were valuable because some of those messages, some of those ideas he shared when I was a child impacted my life, to be who I am, right now in my life. So that was important, even though, we didn't have a lot of time together, but those moments where he was with me, he made me feel special, and so that's something that impacted in my life.
It makes me think of something because you mentioned the times that you spend with him. And this question may seem really strange, but do you know how to say, for example, put up drywall, any sort of, any sort of construction type work, anything, fix it up things around the house?
No, no, no. That was something that not having that with me, that didn't give me, the opportunity to learn and how to do
Mm,
things. He didn't teach
hmm,
me, how to put a screw, how to fix things, and that
hmm.
that I miss that.
It's funny, Omar, and the reason I asked the question that way is because I lived in Nicaragua for some time, and one of the things that really impressed me were all these kids, 12, 13, 14 years old, who were able to do any number of odd and end jobs, construction type jobs. They knew how to put up, drywall, or they knew how to do wiring or plumbing. And a lot of those kids learned that from their dads. And I always thought that to be an extremely impressive thing. So that's why I asked you.
No, and
And
and, and
it's the
it,
fact that you didn't have your dad that much. And then you said, no, I did not get a chance to learn that. Just kind of emphasizes the point that I was trying to explore.
yeah, it's like if you have a dad here in Nicaragua that he's a bricklayer, the kid, is gonna be able to learn since he's a child, that example from his dad. If you have a dad that is an electrician, that kid will learn. And what you're saying is true, I mean, when they have a dad here, they grow more secure, they
Hmm.
grow able to see life in a different way. And that's the kind of impact, when when you have that father figure, on your side.
Right, right. Yeah, I was thoroughly impressed with that. I enjoyed my time there in Nicaragua. There's a beautiful little island. I think it's in Lake Managua called Ometepe, or is it in
No, in
Lake?
Lake Nicaragua,
Okay,
the
Lake
big lake.
Nicaragua. Yeah, the big lake. Yeah. So my sons and I did a hike on Ometepe. It was a pretty challenging hike. Then we spent some time up weekly with our friends up in Diriamba. We lived in Managua for quite a while. We went from Las Colinas to Santo Domingo, from Santo Domingo to Carretera Sur. One of the things that was impressed upon me as we're living there is the kindness of the people. However, there was a lot of poverty. I know that Nicaragua is actually the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. And maybe to kind of help me get a sense of, or help our audience get a sense of what that poverty looks like. What is typically a day's wage currently in Nicaragua?
Well, actually, it's true. After many years, of a lot of, I won't go into politics about socialism. We had been beaten by earthquakes, hurricanes and all that. So that has causing, our country to be poor. But the wage, it's like in the campo, in the field, for someone that works with a machete, he might make in dollars, the most, on a day, $3 a day. If you work
Okay.
in the city, maybe a teacher or someone professional, you might make the most $10 a day.
I asked that so that our audience would get some perspective on what we mean when we say poverty.
Uh-huh.
How do you feel this affects you, Omar, on your fatherhood journey? I mean,
It's a great
yeah.
question
Mm-hmm.
because, as a dad, you have this budget, on your food. Sometimes, you want to take your family out, probably to have some entertainment, with your family, your wife, with kiddos. But
Mm-hmm.
with the wage, that we have here, you have sometimes to make decisions on where I spend my money, and most of it has to go to food. And then, having a kid like Samuel that needs pamper, a special meal, a special medication every month, is hard. But one of the things, that I always give thanks, to God is that in my case, I see that provision all the time, and even though we have difficulties, my kid has been able to have those kind of things, in the middle of all the poverty we live here in Nicaragua.
Some families tend to plan for these huge family vacations, right? Disney World and or trip to, another country. And what does family time look like for you when you say, okay, I want to do something special with my family, taking into consideration the economy?
If I plan, to go out with my family, maybe for 1 day or 2 day, I have to start saving some money, and it would be going to the ocean, since the ocean is close to where we live, in Managua. But
Okay.
we go there, we spend all the time. We sit down, in the sand and all that, and maybe using those maybe $30-$40, for food. Then use maybe $20, for fuel, and that's a tie, budget for that opportunity to spend time with your children. But it's
Right.
worthy, brother, because I mean, sometimes, you just need to get out of your home, and have that quality time, with them, and enjoy life with them, and see them grow, so it's worthy. It's expensive sometimes, but other families, they don't have that in here. But what they usually do, it's that they might go, there's some national parks in here, that you don't pay any fee to get in. So most of
Okay.
the people might go to those places, spend maybe a day, and take the food from their homes to that
Mm-hmm.
park, and then, come back home. But they want to spend, as much as someone would think.
Right. We've had a couple of conversations with fathers that have special needs children. One of them was Damon, and the other one was JC. Both terrific guys. I have a huge amount of respect for both of them after having our conversations. And in both of their conversations, their love pretty much just jumped through the microphone and into my ears and allowed me to see how much they care for their kids and the sacrifices they make. Can you tell me a little bit about his disabilities and what he's going through?
Yeah, Samuel he's 21 years old. He's blind, he's mute. When he was born, he was premature. And then being in the hospital, he got an asphyxia, and so that's the reason why he's blind. And one of the challenges with him, as a father, is that when he's in pain, when something is hurting him,
Hmm.
he's not able to say that. He's not able to tell us where that pain is. One of the things we have been able to learn with him, his mom and I, it's there's certain sounds, that give us the opportunity to know when he's thirsty, when he wants food, when he's uncomfortable with something, eating, or something is eating, or maybe something is bothering him. But in the middle of all that, the greatest challenge, is when he gets sick, because
Hmm.
to take it to the hospital, we don't know what really the complaint is. And some of the things, because of the poverty of this country, when you take it to the hospital, it might take one day. The last time that happened to us, for almost 3 or 4 weeks we stayed in a hospital, because they didn't know what he had, and he had a pneumonia. He almost died for that. Thanks to the Lord, and a doctor prescribed him and diagnosed him, with pneumonia, and started treating him. We were able to bring him back home.
Hey, fellas, just so you're aware, you can stay up to breast and up to speed on every episode by following us on YouTube. In the search bar, just type the Dadography Podcast. When it comes up, select the subscribe button. You'll be sure to be up to date on all of the tools and tips that we get from fathers around the globe. I'm glad to hear that, man. Man, oh man. I mean, it sounds like, Omar, it could be a heavy burden, you know? Have you ever felt like giving up, man?
Brother, one of the things, that you see when things get hard in this country,
Mm-hmm.
because of how the things have been in here. You learn, to be tough, and when those hard times comes, you're able to get strength, from. Well, in my case, as a believer, I ask God to give me strength, in those moments when I want to give up. And when I see Samuel, when I see Sarah, my son and daughter, and I see a smile on their face, that creates on me, that strength that I need, to keep on going for them.
Right. Does Sarah have any disabilities?
Sarah is the other part of Samuel, we didn't have, when Samuel was a kid. So
Mm-hmm.
as a father, I enjoy the other aspects of fatherhood, that I didn't have the opportunity to have with Samuel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Omar, help me to understand a little bit more. And I'm trying to dig here. Your feelings for what your son is going through since birth: cerebral palsy, being blind, not able to communicate, at least verbally, with your wife and yourself. And then you have Sarah. Do you pity your son? Like, you feel sorry for him? Is that something you carry around from day to day? Or has it become so normal and you don't necessarily pity him because you're part of his life and you see the experience that he's having? I mean, help me to
Well,
understand, man.
I'll share this with you. He's not my biological son, but since he came, to my house when I got married, I gave him my last name. I don't feel, that pity. I just love him, and when I see him, with his strength, he has been the one, who taught me how to be thankful, for what I have, for who I am, because when I see him, I see strength in him, even though he's dependable on us. I can see in him, that love, that he's always waiting for us, to serve him and attend him. But it's just something, completely different. It's just a love that makes you love him the way he is, and see him, like a normal kid. I know he has that disability, but I became, his feet. When he needs to walk, I am the one who hold him, and walk to where he needs to. When he needs to drink something, I am the one who gives whatever he needs, when I am home. So that makes it special.
Well, Omar, for what it's worth, I think you just won Father of the Year on the Dadography podcast. Dude, all of this time, I'm thinking he's your biological son. And I know pretty much any culture, a man would shy away from taking on a child that has cerebral palsy and is blind and unable to speak. He would take that situation and go, no, thank you. I'm not going to deal with that because it's not my child. And again, people who have special needs children love their children, and no question about that. But I think it's a rarity for a father to step into a situation like that. You know what I mean? I think that's really special. And I tell you what, man, I'm inspired for sure, because that's a level of fatherhood that I did not anticipate hearing about or being an eyewitness to.
Love makes you do things, that people doesn't understand. When you love someone like Samuel, like Sarah, but more like Samuel with his disability.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's you give your life towards those kids. Like, because it's just a love, that he cannot pay you back. He's not able to say it, but one of the things, that is rewarding to my life is that when he came to my house, when I got married 8 years ago, Samuel couldn't speak at all. But one of the interesting part is that, in his difficulty of talking, the first thing he learned to say was papa, papa. you know that is just rewarding, to my life, to hear when I'm away, and just when they put the phone, close to him, and he says papa, like that. That makes my whole life happy, brother.
Yeah, it sounds like it, man. That's amazing. So you said just 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow, wow. Even and again, from early on, I thought that you were, his biological father. Even after you said that you weren't, I was still thinking that you had been around since his birth. But to say that you've been around since he was 13,
Hmm.
man, you really stepped up to the plate. I don't think I'll be able to hear any other reason for a dad not doing for his children after you just shared that and stepped up to the plate. That's moving, man. I tell you. What words of encouragement, Omar, would you have for dads dealing with a similar situation as yourself? Maybe they're, have disabled children. Maybe they're under economic duress. What advice would you give, or encouragement, I should say, would you give to these dads?
I would like to speak, on, as a Christian. I am a believer, and I know there are some other dads, probably they don't have that relationship with the Lord the way I have it. But to have a child, it's just one of the greatest gifts you can have as a dad. And from my experience, I had some moments with my dad, and those moments were so special. Now that I have my kids, I want them to feel that I am there for them, that I will protect them, that I will provide for them, even though the situation might be the hardest one, but I am there for them. And I would like to encourage every dad in the world to see their kids not only as a blessing, but to see them, as the opportunity to um, give their life towards them. I
Mhm.
mean, because there's nothing better, to see a smile and a word from your kids saying thanks, dad, for what you have done, because that's just the rewarding. And so I just want to encourage them to take every opportunity, every minute they can, to spend with their kids, and just make a life changing experience with them when they're together.
Wow. That's good information. That's good tips, good insights. I'm moved. I'm still stuck on um this level of fatherhood, man. You're like, yeah, Michael Jordan.
It has not been easy, when I got married,
Mm-hmm.
for the first time, having Samuel, I didn't know, because you think you read a lot of books probably on fatherhood, and you think you know some things, but when you come to the point, then you see reality. But the thing, I just needed to do, at the beginning was just, okay, here I am. Samuel is here. I just need to love him. And I can
Right.
tell you, all this time that I've been on his side and loving him, when he spends time with me, I can see, that love, that opportunity of me investing time in him, for me to be together with him. I changed a lot of things in his life, even in the middle of his disability. And so that is
Mm.
rewarding, brother.
Yeah, it's worth it, huh?
Yeah, of course. Because I mean, just to see, he never spoke a word. But then all of a sudden, since I've been investing life in him, he says now that sometimes, you can understand when he mentions we have been trying to teach him how to say water, he's learning. And so those kind of little things, is because of the love, we have showed to him.
What type of hopes, though, do you have for your children? I mean, what are your hopes and dreams for Samuel and Sarah?
Well, for Samuel, I know, one of the greatest things that I have seen is lots of people have been telling us that Samuel was not going to live long enough to see him grown. He's
Hmm.
21 now, and so I think because he has lived more than what everybody said, even doctors. And
Hmm.
I want him to, in my case as a dad, I just want to see him growing a little bit more, and being able to, with Sarah, and him, like Sarita, I want to see her, to become a little girl, and become that lady, that we all expect, a professional girl, and being able, to love not only her brother but other people, the way she have seen on our example. That's my
Hmm.
dream.
Yeah. I ask about dreams because I think at least from US culture, right? I can speak as it relates to that. And maybe I'm thinking a lot of other cultures probably have similar thoughts, but generally a father in the US that's involved or with his child thinks about things like, okay, well, I want my kids to grow up and be a doctor, or grow up and maybe play professional sports. In some instances they have hopes of high school graduations and university degrees, and they kind of, even from a youth, maybe even Sarah's age, she's 7, right? They
Yeah,
begin
yeah, yeah.
to
She's 7.
they begin to kind of encourage their children along that path of, we'll say, success. But when I say success, I'm specifically speaking more so about the financial path that they'll be on, right? Like, you want them to get a good job so they can get a good house and have a good family and make good money, etc. Do you think that because of Nicaragua and just the economy, I mean, do you think because of Nicaragua that you don't have quite the same expectations? Does it weigh your expectations down, I guess, is what I'm asking?
No, 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 because I mean, even in the middle of our context, here in our economy, one of the
Mm-hmm.
things, everyone accommodates to their economy. But in our cases, I see Sarah as a doctor. I
Mm-hmm.
see her, becoming a bilingual doctor, and a successful woman, when she grows.
Mm-hmm.
Because, right now as a dad, I work every day, and one of the things I try to do, from the money I make, and invest in her education,
Mm-hmm.
so she can go to the university, then graduate, and try to support her, in all those. And her goal, is she's 7, but every time she talks to us, she's always talking about becoming a doctor. And so most of the toys, most of the things, that we bring her, we are trying to focus her mindset, towards that goal that she has.
That's fantastic. You kind of mentioned, monies that you make from work or whatever. Is there a plan in place to help assist Sarah materialize or make that dream come true of being a doctor?
Yeah, I'm trying to see, right now my plan after, since the things with COVID and all these, have changed a lot of things, and things are getting harder. But one of the things, I'm trying to save for her, to start saving from now, so she can have a college degree, because that would be the hard part. We have public universities here, but I would like for her to get all that opportunity. If she doesn't apply to one of the public universities, being able to see if I can send her to a private. But that's our plan right now.
All right. Well, that's fantastic, man. That really is. Omar, I want to thank you so much for coming on to the Dadography podcast. This has been really inspirational for me, and it's an honor to be this close to an individual that made such a strong stance on fatherhood. And I'm certain that even after the show, I'll continue to marinate on yeah, just how inspirational and motivational it is, man. That's it's a real honor. So thank you for coming on to the Dadography podcast.
Thank you too for allowing me to speak. It's great to talk about my son, my daughter, and thanks so much, because I know there's other guys, that will hear this podcast, in the program, that will get encouraged, to love their children. And I encourage them to see fatherhood, as the most important thing in their lives.
Circumstances and your environment can make you think about giving up. Don't. Lean on your beliefs. Lean on your support circle. Lean on those special moments with your kids and be strong.
Like Omar said, a child is just one of the greatest gifts you can have.
No matter what your budget is, create memories with your kids. Do things with your kids. Your kids should know and feel that you will protect and provide for them, regardless of the situation. Plan for their future, and remember the next generation should always be one step ahead. What do you want to be when you grow up, little buddy?
I want to be a big boy.
I can help you with that, little buddy. You will be a bigger boy than I ever was. Thanks for listening. See you guys next week.